Hi guys, my name is Mikayla Harper. I am a therapist at Changes Counseling Center here on Johns Island. We're at my house with my dog, and so hopefully she'll behave. I specialize in working with kids and young people and do a lot of work with people who have autism. So one of the most common challenges that people come and see me for is things related to social skills. So social skills deficits, and I see this in both kids that both are on and off the spectrum. And it's a really important thing because as humans, we're innately social creatures. But it's also one of my favorite things to do in therapy because it's fun. You'll see that later. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about social skill development and specifically how we use role playing in developing social skills. One of the biggest old autism myths is that kids who have autism either aren't interested in social contact or don't need it or just whatever, that they're just not social or that they don't want to be. And I probably don't have to tell you guys this, but that's obviously not true. In my experience, every kid wants social connection. Some of them just aren't sure how to get it. They might try and fail and get really discouraged, or they might just try the same things over and over again and not realize that they're doing it incorrectly or that they're rubbing people the wrong way or accidentally annoying others. And some of them just don't know how to start. So a lot of kids will come into my office and say something like, well, I really want to have friends, but I don't know how. I don't know how to make friends. Or, well, no, I have a bunch of friends, but I don't know any of their names or things like that, where kids they want it. They want the social connection, but there's a barrier there somewhere. And so the thing about social skills is that a lot of us learn them really naturally. We're going to do that by observing other people, by watching our parents or our siblings or our classmates or whoever around us, and just sort of naturally learn to pick up on subtle cues and notice patterns. Even from the media, we learn a lot about socializing now, but a lot of the kids that I work with either didn't or just don't learn them in that kind of passive way. So like any other skill, we're going to actively teach it in a way that makes sense to them. So in comes this thing called social skills training, and I'll give a little bit of background on that. A lot of the social skills work that I do comes from this therapeutic approach, and it's just what it sounds like. It's a way that we teach people how to improve their social skills, and it's known to help not just with people on the autism spectrum, but also social anxiety. I use it for that a lot, schizophrenia, and just a lot of other challenges that people have. The two most common ones that I use it for are autism, but social anxiety probably just as often. So social skills training techniques include the following. So the first one is instruction, which is really just educating or teaching about each one of these skills that we're working on. And this is going to involve me modeling the appropriate use of this skill. The next one is behavioral rehearsal or role playing, which we're going to get into more in a minute. And this is practicing that new skill in these sort of simulated settings. The next is corrective feedback. So I'm going to, do a lot of saying, okay, that was really good, but remember to, ask me more follow-up questions or whatever. I'm going to be helping to shape the skill in a productive way. Positive reinforcement when they do things well, of course, praising, and helping use reward to improve these social skills. And then the last really important part is having weekly homework assignments where the kids are going to be given something to do to practice this outside of therapy. And I'm going to say kids the whole time because I mostly work with kids, but I certainly have used all of these things with adults as well, both on and off the autism spectrum. So the biggest takeaway that I want y'all to get today is on this behavioral rehearsals thing, or what we call role play. The most progress that I've seen kids make in social skills is from role playing, not just with me, but more importantly with their families and peers outside of therapy as homework. So I'm going to take you through my style of how I teach role play, or typically initiate a role play with a kid, and then how I encourage families to practice. So let's just say that I'm working with a child and the first social skill issue that comes up is making eye contact. It's a pretty common one. So you guys, those of you watching this, if you're looking for social skills tips, probably dealt with this one. So I'm going to start with teaching kids about making eye contact and why it's important. So something like eye contact means that when we're looking at each other, my eyes are looking into your eyes and your eyes are looking into mine. And this is really important because making eye contact shows that we're listening. And if we're listening, it means that we care about what the other person has to say. And so this is important when we're making friends because we want our friends to know that we care about them and what they have to say. So I'll do a brief demonstration on that, making eye contact versus not making eye contact, that modeling part. I might follow it up with a short social story related to the skill because kids love videos and technology, so I try to work that in little ways wherever I can, just to keep with the times. And then I will tell kids that we're going to do some acting. So that's what I call role playing. I say we're going to be actors today, we're going to do some acting, and I'll assign us parts. So I'll say, you be you, and I'll be your friend. And you're going to say something to me, and then you're going to tell me if I'm making good eye contact when I respond. So the kid will, do their best to initiate some kind of interaction or conversation with me, and I'm going to do it totally wrong. I'm going to do what we call an inappropriate role play. So I'll break every rule that I just taught them. If we're talking about eye contact, I won't look at them at all. I'll look at my shoes. I'll turn my body away, really over-exaggerate it. And then at the end of the scene, I'm going to say, okay, so did I do it right? And they're going to laugh at me and tell me all the things that I did wrong. And I'll laugh too and say, okay, let's get real. We'll do this again. And then I will, make sure that in my second go round, I do everything right. Really model that skill to the best of my ability. And then I'm going to ask them to tell me what was different, what was better, what did I do right, and really involve them in that kind of, feedback part where they're giving me feedback. So after that, we're going to switch, and I'll let them, they'll be the ones that are showing me the skill and practicing the skill, and I'm going to be giving feedback, pretty constantly, like, okay, wow, you did great at the beginning, but then pretty quickly you were looking at your shoes. Let's try to use eye contact the whole time, or whatever. And I'll keep kind of going with this feedback reinforcement thing until I see that they've made some really noticeable improvement on it, and then we'll end the practice. And usually afterwards, I'm going to let them kind of pick a game or an activity to do to kind of relax and as more positive reinforcement. Because although this stuff might seem kind of silly, like, okay, we're talking about eye contact, like, come on, to a lot of us, it's actually really hard for kids or adults that are lacking in social skills. Like, these are really tricky things and really awkward things for them to practice. So I try to give a pretty good amount of downtime afterwards so that they can just sort of settle. And what I've noticed is that usually afterwards, when that sort of pressure comes off, is when I notice improvement in that skill. They'll actually be making more eye contact with me when we're playing, whatever, Jenga at the end of the session, because they've had the practice, but then now the pressure's removed. So that's always fun to see. And then at the very end of my session, I'm going to bring in the parent or the guardian or whoever's working with them, and tell them, what we worked on and how they can work on that at home. So pretty much every kid or every parent that I've worked with has heard me give some form of this next little speech because it applies to all skills, not just social skills. But I really like metaphors, so I'll share this one with you today. I ask a parent if they've ever learned how to play any kind of instrument or sport or any new skill. And they're going to say yes. We all have. We've learned to drive cars or play the tuba or whatever. So I'll say, all right, so imagine that we're going to teach your kid to play the French horn. Would you just hand it to them and maybe give them one lesson and then put them on a stage in front of a bunch of people for a recital? And they're going to say, no, I would not do that. That wouldn't be fair. And I'll ask, well, what would they need to do between that first lesson and the recital? And say, well, practice. So of course, they're going to have to practice. They're going to need a lot of practice and a lot of, opportunities to fail and succeed and improve before we stick them into a, high stake setting like a recital. So this is true for social skills as well. In this example, like, their recitals are going to be their natural social interactions, like going and making new friends or going to the grocery store and, paying for their own groceries or like whatever it is that we expect them to be able to do. actually doing it as a recital, we need to give them a lot of opportunities to practice if they're going to be successful in that setting. So whatever social skills you're working on with your kids or your friends or whoever you're helping here, if that's eye contact or two-way conversations or ordering food or riding the bus or checking out a book from the library or whatever we're doing, practice it. Practice it a lot. Give a lot of positive feedback, give, little corrective feedback as well. Reward afterwards if you need to, but make it really fun. I'll end by saying that practice might not always make perfect, but it definitely helps. And like I said at the beginning, practicing at home with your kids is what I have seen be, the biggest factor in noticeable improvement in social skills in my practice. So, good luck.